What's up, player? Welcome back to Apprentice to Free, where I'm here to show you my journey from nothing to $10 million worth of own real estate. Now, I was asked in the comments to describe my service and my journey to becoming a captain in the Marine Corps, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a basic overview of the process and from beginning to end of my time and my journey through the military. But as always, if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on the future videos. So I'm just going to start from the very beginning, how I even got introduced to the Marine Corps. So back when I was a senior in high school, there was a college fair at my school. And at the time I was playing football and running track. So I knew I wanted to go to college to play football. But there was a Marine Corps OSO, Officer Selection Officer, which is like a recruiter, but for officers. So recruiter would recruit people to enlist them, and then also would recruit people to commission them as an officer in the Marine Corps. Now, if you don't know the rank structure in the military, go Google that and then come back. So enlisting and commissioning, two completely different things, and you have to understand what that means so you can understand what I'm talking about. So I met this guy. I didn't know anything about the military, and I thought it was cool. They had guns. They liked to work out. It was supposed to be tough. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'll get into that. So over time, as time progressed, I got into the platoon leadership course, which is PLC. There's different commissioning paths to get into the Marine Corps. There's like the Naval Academy. There's PLC, which I did. There's OCC. If you want more details about each of these commissioning platforms, let me know and I'll make a video about that. But I was in platoon leadership course, which means I had to go to OCS during 2 different summers after my college semesters. So OCS is Officer Candidate School, which is boot camp, but for officers. Boot camp is a qualification to enlist, and OCS is a qualification to commission as an officer. So I went to OCS after my sophomore year and my junior year of college, and they're both 6 weeks apiece down in Quantico, Virginia in the middle of the summertime. So I finished those 2 courses. And after I finished the course after my junior year, went back to college for my senior year. And at that time, you had the ability to say, no, I don't want to go into the Marine Corps, or yes, I want to commission as a lieutenant. So I commissioned as a second lieutenant on the same day, actually right before my college graduation. So I technically wasn't even graduated yet, but I was commissioned as a lieutenant. And commissioning as a lieutenant just means that now you're officially a lieutenant in the Marine Corps or whatever military branch that you chose to go to. So I graduated in May 2015, and then by September 2015, I was back in Quantico, Virginia for TBS, which is the basic school. Now, if you're a Marine Corps officer, every lieutenant, every Marine Corps officer is required to go to TBS, which is a 6-month school, basically teaching you how to be a provisional rifle platoon commander, because every Marine's a rifleman and every Marine Corps officer is a infantry platoon commander. So after enlisted Marines get out of boot camp, they go to MCT if they don't have a combat-related MOS. So MCT is just teaching them how to be a basic Marine Corps infantryman. And TBS is kind of the extended version over a 6-month period, teaching brand new boot lieutenants how to become a infantry platoon commander. Now, it's not the most in-depth thing, but we learn a lot of different knowledge, and we enter the school as freaking boots, and we leave understanding how to run a infantry platoon, squad, fire team, company, because you do get a lot of that kind of experience also. So in March 2016, I graduated from TBS, and towards the end of TBS, you find out what your MOS is. Now, your MOS is your military occupational specialty, aka your job. So you have a list of like 20 different MOSs to choose from, or something. I can't remember the exact number, but you rank which MOSs you want. And me, when I first got into the Marine Corps, I was like, I want to be infantry. I wanted to be an infantry officer. But as time progressed, I was swindled to become a communications officer. So I put communications number 1, and I got it because a lot of people didn't want it. So that was pretty easy. And communications is basically like IT, radios, basically how to communicating. That's really what it is. So after I left TBS, I went to Basic Communications Officers course. And that's another 6-month course, which is the longest MOS specialty course for officers after TBS. It's 6 months, and it's in 29 Palms, California. And if you don't know about 29 Palms, it sounds like a nice place. It should be called 29 Stumps. It is in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. It's about like 2 to 2.5 hours east of LA. If you know where Coachella is in Palm Springs, it's kind of north of that. It's in the same area as Joshua Tree, if you know where Joshua Tree is. But it's the middle of nowhere, you know, desert people, not my kind of people, a lot of meth heads. And my first time living in the desert. Wasn't a fun time, but we got through the entire course, and during comm school, we basically learned what our Marines would be doing. So we learned radio theory, HF, VHF, UHF, all that kind of things, the whole spectrum. And then we get into networking, like computer networking, how to set up networks and all that stuff. And then the cyber network, so like running email exchanges, setting up internet services and stuff like that. So it was a lot of nerdy stuff, which I thought was super cool. And I picked to become a commo because I thought when I got out the Marine Corps, I could use this to get a high-paying job. I learned to hate communications, and I never want to do it again. So I'm not pursuing IT anymore. But basically, I graduated comm school, and at comm school, you got to give your preferences on which coast you wanted to go on. So you could choose the East Coast, the West Coast, or you could choose Japan. At the time, when I first got in the Marine Corps, I was like, I want to go to Japan so bad. I really want to go to Japan. But when the time came and I thought about it, I was like, man, I'm in California. LA's right here. I've been going to LA every weekend because I was not staying in the desert. There's nothing to do, especially if you're young. It was young like me. I think I was like 22 at the time. So I was like, yeah, man, I'm staying in California. My cousin was out there. She was in the industry. So it was nothing but a good time every weekend and every time I went out. So I was happy to be there because I'm from New York City. So California is just completely different. So I chose to stay in California, and I got assigned to the 1st MLG in Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton is right in between LA and San Diego, directly in between, in Oceanside, California. So I went to the MLG, and I stayed in the 1st MLG throughout my military career. And the first unit I was assigned to as a second lieutenant was comm company, communications company. So 1st MLG communications company, and I was just a training officer. So I was in charge of running PFT, CFT, CMP shoots. You probably don't know what none of that stuff means, but if you want me to go deeper into that, just let me know in the comments below. And then at the time, there was a lot of lieutenants who were assigned to comm company. There was like 8 of us, and there wasn't really any place for us to go. So we just got shuffled to random places, and I just happened to become the training officer just because there was nothing else for us to do. So I was there for about 8 months, and then I finally promoted to 1st lieutenant. And in order to promote as a 1st lieutenant, all you need is 2 years as a 2nd lieutenant, and you're automatically going to get promoted to 1st lieutenant. So that's really it. So I was promoted to 1st lieutenant, and literally a week later, I was assigned my 1st platoon. So I left communications company, and I moved over to CLR 15, which is now a disbanded unit. So I had my 1st platoon. I had about 30, a little bit over 30 people. I had Marines older than me, younger than me. It was crazy. Had my first couple of staff sergeants who were all older than me. So that's the one thing. As a Marine Corps officer, you're going to be younger than the senior enlisted Marines. And it's crazy because these guys, like my Marines, had like combat experience. They were in their 30s and their 40s, about to retire. I had a Master Guns who's a Master Guns, the highest ranking enlisted rank in the Marine Corps. I had her, and she was one of my Marines. So it's just like they have the experience and the knowledge and the age and the wisdom and everything, and you're just coming in fresh out of college, but you're in charge. That was a weird relationship at first for me, but over time you learn that there's some things that you know that they don't know, and there's some things that they know that you, it just works. Somehow it just works, and it just is what it is. So as in the Marine Corps, you're just thrown into the fire, and you either sink or you swim. You have to be highly adaptable, and I learned a lot from those kind of experiences. But I was in CLR 15 for about a year, and then I was moved over to Supply Battalion. And the highlight of that time in CLR 15 is I did a 1-month exercise in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, just a logistics exercise. The UAE is in the Middle East, like you know where Dubai and Abu Dhabi is. Those cities are in the UAE. And at first I was like, man, I'm going to Dubai. This is lit. It's going to be dope. But as always, the Marine Corps finds a way to make everything shitty. So I wasn't in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. I did visit those cities, but I definitely have to go back on my own time because when the Marine Corps, when you're doing stuff in the military, it's just not as fun as it could be. But I was in like Fujairah, Minhad, like in the actual country. And aside from Dubai and Abu Dhabi, the UAE is a pretty shitty place to be. So I did that for about a month, came back to the States, and then a couple months later, I moved to Supply Battalion, which is still in the MLG. And at Supply Battalion, I was the S6. So as a communications officer, you're either the S6, which means you are the guy in charge of communications for that battalion. And that was me. So everything fell on my shoulders. When I was at CLR 15, I was the S6 Alpha. So when I first got to CLR 15, there was no major commo. It was just me. So I was in charge of communications for the entire regiment, which is 2 battalions, and then it had the headquarters battalion. So I was in charge of communications for everybody until I had a major, and then I became her assistant, S6 Alpha. I still ran the platoon. I was still the platoon commander, but if you know, you know. If you don't know and you want me to explain more about what that kind of means, let me know below and I'll make a video about that. But when I moved over to Supply Battalion, I became the independent S6. So I was a guy, I was a go-to guy, and I didn't have a major's help. But I knew what I was doing because I was in a role like that for a while, so I understood the game, and I was still in the same regiment. So Supply Battalion was under CLR 15. So I just moved down to an independent position, which is where you want to be as a lieutenant. You don't want to be the assistant, you want to be the independent, because it makes you look better and you have more responsibility. So I did that for the remainder of my Marine Corps career. Towards the end, for 3 months in 2019, I was sent down to the California border to assist Border Patrol with their mission. So I had about I want to say 100 probably Marines in my platoon at that time. And basically my Marines just went out there and observed the border and alerted Border Patrol whenever they seen any kind of suspicious activity, or if they seen somebody from the Mexico side trying to cross over to the American side. And there's a lot of that happening. So I spent 3 months out there, and that's also where I was promoted to captain. Now, in order to get promoted to captain, there's a whole nother process not related to get promoted to lieutenant. So as a first lieutenant, you get on these boards, and the boards have all your fit reps, which is like your progress reports. They have your photo, your PFT and CFT scores, and everything you've done so far. And it's like a board. So they say, yep, he's eligible to get promoted. Yeah, she's eligible to get promoted. Or no, he's not. No, she's not. So it's like a board, and most people get accepted because it's not really that hard. They need captains because a lot of people are leaving the military. So I got accepted to become captain, and I promoted while I was down at the border. So there's something else also that's called career designation, and as an officer, that's something you would have to go through. So it's the same kind of thing. You go on a board, and all your accomplishments are listed out, and then the board just accepts or denies people for a career designation. Now, career designation means that you're able to stay in the Marine Corps and continue your service as an officer. So if you get accepted, you can continue to go to different places, do different things, continue to rank up and all that stuff. If you get denied, then you have to get out the Marine Corps. But if you're denied, you don't have a choice over that. You just have to leave when your contract is up. If you get accepted, you could choose to say, yes, I want to accept career designation, or no, I do not want to accept career designation. So if you accept career designation, then you continue doing your thing. You get orders to a new place. You could go on to do different things in the Marine Corps. You go do different billets, go to different places, et cetera, et cetera. But if you decline, then you're saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want a new contract. I just want to get out and become a civilian again. So I declined career designation because I did not want to stay in the military. Now, there's a whole lot of reasons why I didn't want to stay in. If you want to know more about that, let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk about it. But I got promoted to captain while I was down there at the border, and I had already declined career designation, which is kind of funny because usually you get career designation before you get your next set of orders. But I had got my next set of orders before I got career designated due to paperwork issues and a whole lot of stuff that wasn't done correctly, which helped me because it got to see what I would do next if I did accept career designation. And they wanted me to be an OSO, which I didn't want to do. I would basically be a recruiter. So that was even more the reason of why I wanted to get out. But I was getting out anyway, so it really didn't matter. But back to the border. So I finished my time up there at the border, got promoted to captain, and a month later, I was a civilian again. So that was basically my entire Marine Corps experience in a nutshell. If you want to know anything more specifically, or you have any questions about any part of my service, or any questions because you're thinking about joining the military, let me know in the comments below. Now, if this video provided you any kind of value, hit that like button so I know that I did a good job explaining my service in the Marine Corps. So I'm just going to reiterate it one more time. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you want me to go in depth or be more specific about anything about the military in general, let me know in the comments. I'll talk to you later. I'm out. Peace.